Cool. All right. So tonight we are talking about breaking emotional barriers to healing. And please feel free to throw stuff in the chat. I gotta figure out how to see the chat. How do I see the chat? Hold on. I'm just going through the presentation. Okay, that works. That's big enough. I guess we'll just, oh, breaking emotional barriers to healing. And the reason I think this is such a big deal is because in functional medicine, we talk about root cause. And root cause can be environmental, it can be physical, it can be socio-emotional, but it can also be emotional. And I think if we, from a functional medicine perspective, don't address the emotional sides of how we function when we're healing, we're missing half, if not more, of the puzzle. And so being able to talk about the emotional barriers to healing is really important. And so I'm super stoked about this conversation. So our agenda for the evening, I'm going to kind of set the stage by telling my story, why I'm such a believer in breaking emotional barriers to healing and why this is so important. I'm going to talk about the science behind those emotional barriers to healing, because I think science is really important, and to make sure that we're grounded in reality and truth and not anything that's like woo-woo or just a good idea. I think that's really important. We're going to talk about one of the many options to heal. There's a million ways to heal emotional barriers, right? But we're going to talk about one option that I think is really cool. And then I'm going to give us the opportunity to try it. So as we go through this process, tonight's a workshop, there's multiple people on it. We don't have a ton of time, but I would love to be able to go through this process with either us as a group or one of you individually, while the rest of us kind of watch and learn and absorb, if you're willing. If you're not willing, I have a backup plan and I'm going to go through it for myself. But I want to invite you into this space. It's a really cool opportunity to be able to maybe move something out of the way that's really been in your way. So I want you to think about, kind of as we're going having this conversation. Yay. Hi, Tina.
What?
I'm just going to mute you because it's real loud in the background. But if you have any questions, please jump in. And I would love to see your face. If you're willing to turn your camera on, that would be awesome. So as we're going through this process, please feel free to drop questions in the chat, unmute yourself, interrupt me. This is a workshop, not a lecture. And then also just start thinking about oh man, I've kind of had this weird shoulder thing going on, and let's see if we can get something moving on that. Maybe don't pick your darkest, deepest emotional, biggest emotional trauma, not because we don't care about that, but because we're in a group and we don't have time to go 14 layers deep, but we do have time to go 3 layers deep. And I want to invite you guys to be able to have that process. So we're going to start by talking about my story, the link between gut health, adrenal fatigue, and emotional pain. So most of you guys know my gut health story, which is the short version. I was super sick. I'd been sick for years. I'd seen multiple doctors. Nobody could figure it out. Everyone said you've got IBS, so chicken and lettuce is the rest of your life. Hope that works for you. Good luck. And that's where I sort of stumbled into functional medicine, because there has to be a solution. This cannot be the answer, that I have to live like this with shingles at age 24. And I found functional medicine, and I found an enormous amount of healing. And I was able to function. I had my energy back. My immune system came back online. When I healed my gut, everything kind of started working. And I still got sick sometimes. Sometimes I would eat something and I would still get so sick, or my immune system just wasn't perfect. I'd done all the things and I was so much better. I'd gone from 0% to probably 95%, but there is still this last 5% that I just couldn't figure out. And so the way this happened, we were driving up to the mountains to go on a ski trip with friends. And all of my symptoms started out of nowhere. We're in the truck heading up to Breckenridge. I'd been totally fine. We pass Idaho Springs, and all of a sudden I start getting all my farts and I start getting tired and my arms start getting tingly. And I'm like, what the heck? I haven't even eaten yet today. This is before breakfast. I just don't understand. And I was so frustrated. I was so irritated. And so I started doing all of my functional medicine things, right? I started thinking through all the things that I'd eaten, and I started trying to calm my stress down, even though I wasn't that stressed. I was excited to go be with our friends, and I started trying to self-diagnose. And then I had been way prior to this, before any part of my healing journey, I had gone to see a naturopath, and I just had a weird check in my spirit. I was like, I don't know. I don't like the way this feels. I don't think that this is where I'm supposed to be. So I stopped going to see her. And so in this process, driving to Breckenridge, I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll text her. And something in the back of my head was like, nope, that's not what we're going to do. So for those of you who don't know, I believe in Jesus. If you don't believe in Jesus, that's okay. You're still welcome in this space and we're still going to have this conversation. But that's helpful for you to know about me. So I just got this check in my spirit. I was like, I'm not supposed to reach out to this lady. So I call them my old prayer ladies. That sounds so offensive, but they really are old, very old, and they pray. That's what they do. So they're my old prayer ladies. So I texted kind of the head lady of this ministry and I said, hey, like I'm feeling super sick. I don't really know what's going on. I'm kind of like, I'm out of options. I've done all the things and I'm so much better, but I'm not there yet. What can I do? And she said, well, like we've got an appointment on Monday. Come on in, honey. And I was like, okay. So I come in and, I sit down and I tell them a little bit about what's going on. I was like, I don't know, I'm feeling sick. Like I've got this gas and I'm just tired all the time and I don't know what to do. So they start praying. And one of the ladies goes, did you have a really bad breakup in high school? And I was like, yes. How do you know that? And she goes, well, what I feel like I'm getting is that you lost a piece of your identity back then. And that's where all of this is coming from. And I was like, cool, let's fix that. And she said, great. So if it's okay with you, like, let's just pray for you to kind of reclaim your identity and whatever, pieces of your heart were broken in that breakup. He was my first boyfriend. I was convinced we were going to get married, like, that whole story. Obviously we didn't, and that's for the better, but I was, 19 and head over heels in love. So she said, we're just going to pray for the restoration of those pieces of your heart. We're going to ask Jesus to come in and whatever memories from that feel really painful, we're just going to ask him to like pick you up and kind of hold you through those memories. And we're just going to ask the Lord to restore that. And I was like, awesome. And so we prayed through that. And I physically felt something shift and change in my body. There's a whole nother piece of that story that I might tell on another webinar, but not this one. I felt something physically change in my body, which was mind blowing to me. At this point, I like believed, but not believed at that point, like at that level. And I just knew in my spirit in that moment, I was like, I'm healed, I'm done. And I have not had another food allergy since. Like that got me the last 5% over the line. And so part of the reason that at Live Nourished, we are we just hit so hard on this full rounded aspect of emotion. Like, yes, we do the elimination food plan. Yes, we do the 5 R's of gut health, remove, repair, reinoculate, restore, but we're also encouraging you to have a counselor. And we're also encouraging you to journal and to meditate and to reduce your stress and to do all of these other things, because we know that the physical piece is part of it, but all of these other things play in. So that for me was the moment when I went, oh, okay, like I can science till the cows come home, but there is some piece that is maybe not as scientific that is equally as important. And that's what tonight is about, but we're also going to talk about the science, which is pretty cool. And if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any comments, feel free to unmute and interrupt. So we're going to talk about the science. I'm more than happy to send you guys my reference articles if you like. I think reference articles are cool. But here's what we know about how emotions affect our well-being. We know that people who deal with anger and unforgiveness have higher risks of heart attack and heart disease. We know that from multiple different studies, and that seems pretty obvious, right? Like, well, if you're just like always angry all the time, that probably affects your blood pressure. But there might be something more. We know that that's linked. The interesting thing about all of this research is it's all correlative. It's not causative. So we can't say, anger causes heart disease, but we can say that a lot of people who have heart disease also have anger and unforgiveness, and these things seem to be linked. And I think that's really cool because that's an NCBI study. So NCBI is PubMed, peer-reviewed medical journal, pretty hard to refute. We also know that emotional reactions, hard emotional reactions, the emotions we don't like to feel, anger, sadness, grief, they actually physically repress our white blood cells. So what happens when our white blood cells get repressed? Well, that's when we start to get cancer. That's when we get anything from the cold and flu to cancer. If our white blood cells can't fight off disease, that happens. So this is pretty easy. Sometimes even in my own life, I can see sometimes like, man, something really hard happened and then I got sick. Well, maybe I was exposed to someone who was also sick, but also my white blood cells were suppressed because I was having a hard time. We see people who have had, they just haven't processed emotions. And a lot of times we see those people in cancer clinics who are now trying to process their emotions because it's crucial for their healing. They're not going to be able to heal as well or as quickly without processing those emotions. Again, NCBI article, I think that's pretty cool. Whoops, too far. We know that autoimmune I think this one's super cool because we deal with a lot of autoimmune conditions here at Live Nourished. We know that autoimmune conditions lessen when patients learn to practice gratitude and frame negative experiences through the lens of growth and opportunity. That's crazy. When you can take a rheumatoid arthritis patient and teach them gratitude and their knuckles stop hurting, like that's pretty rad. So that's kind of the flip side of the first two. The first two are showing us how negative emotions really negatively affect us. The next one is showing us how these kind of positive emotions really lift our spirit. And we can feel that in our body, right? Like when I'm feeling sad, going for a run is not what I want to do because I have low energy. I don't feel like doing it. When I'm grateful and stoked and happy, like I can go bust a workout out because I feel amazing, because it affects our energy. And now we have some of the cellular data to show that, which is pretty rad. The book that we're going to be going through tonight is based on a handful of research where doctors have been able to correlate specific life events / emotions to specific diseases. So the doctor who started this work had a patient who came in with lung cancer. He was a lung cancer oncologist. Patient came in and he asked her, he said, I'm going to forget the story, but it basically was like, when did you start grieving someone that you haven't stopped? And she was like, well, this year. And she'd gotten cancer the next year. Like, well, you might want to look at that. And so then that started him and a whole bunch of other people on his team to start looking at, can we correlate like this type of emotion to this type of cancer? And again, it's really correlative. It's not causative. It doesn't mean if this happened, then you are going to get blah, blah, blah. But we can see, people who have this ailment have a tendency to have this same sort of emotional trigger in their life. And that's pretty crazy. The encouraging part for me in that is that it's not about the hard thing that happened in our life. It's about how we frame it and handle it and process through it. It's not about us just being like, oh, grief is bad, it's going to lower my immune system. Nope. Grief is this beautiful thing that we need to hold tenderly and gently, and we need to walk through it, but not get stuck in it. And it's when we get stuck in it that these things happen. And the good news is, even if we're stuck right now, we can move through, which I think is pretty cool. Anna said in the chat, my uncle had cancer last year and a big part of his treatment was doing positive self-talk and meditation, which was a huge part of his treatment. Yeah, I think that's really cool. Something that I think is really cool is I feel like oncology, it's not functional medicine yet, but I see a lot of oncologists starting to move in this direction because we still don't have a cure for cancer. And as it turns out, when we don't have a pill for your ill, people start to get creative. And so I'm seeing a lot of oncologists in the research start to go these kind of non-traditional paths like positive self-talk and meditation. If you didn't catch our webinar or our workshop last month was all about how positive self-talk affects our health. So obviously these two are super linked. But I just think that's cool that, we still don't have a cure for cancer. One day we probably will, but in the meantime, we're learning all of these other things that make a big effect. Last one, suppressed emotions and suppressed stress can change DNA. I found this article tonight. I read it and I was like, I have to put that in the thing because that's pretty rad. We talk about if you can think of that family, or maybe it's your own family, where every single person in the family has that illness or has that trait. Like, man, every single person in this family has heart disease, all of them. Or like every single person in this family has cancer. Like all of them, or all of these people are angry. Like they have these family traits. As it turns out, that's not just a scriptural thing that the sins of the fathers will be passed down to the sons. It's a whole nother thing, but it's actually a DNA thing. When we suppress our emotions, when we operate in unforgiveness and stress and anger, it changes our DNA. And what do we do with DNA? Well, we pass it to our kids. So that's pretty wild. I think that could potentially be really discouraging, but for me, it's really encouraging because I know that the choices that I make right now will affect my family in a good way. And that's really cool. Like that gives me a lot of power and a lot of authority. So I think that's pretty rad. Any questions on that before we keep plugging? Cool. So I think this is really interesting. I was at a functional forum last night and I learned this. And so I decided to throw it in. So this is a last minute ad. Excuse me. So I was challenged last night to stop talking about adrenal fatigue and to start talking about dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine dropouts. I still have some learning to do on that, but I thought this was really interesting. So this is how stress affects our body, and this is our cortisol curve. So this right here, this blue line is a normal cortisol curve. When you first wake up in the morning, it starts increasing. It peaks around mid-morning, 10 or 11, and then it starts to slowly decrease throughout the day until you're ready to go to sleep. That's a normal cortisol curve. Someone who is not super stressed all the time, someone who doesn't have a ton of emotional stuff, and not someone who doesn't have a ton of inflammation. That's what we want it to look like. This over here is what I pulled. So this bottom line is normal. So we don't start off elevated. You know, we wake up, our cortisol increases, it slowly decreases throughout the day, and here we go. This line right here is what we've been referring to as adrenal fatigue, which means as soon as we wake up, our cortisol is already elevated. Like within 5 minutes of waking, it's higher than it should be. It spikes dramatically. Like we start thinking about our day, or kind of like the world starts setting in, and it goes up over 150%. So what we want to see is from when you wake up to that peak is an increase of 50 to 150%. If your cortisol is increasing more, 150% or more, that's where we start to see adrenal fatigue happen. And it's where we start to see like wired and tired. And so we're spiking and then we're crashing super hard. And then you can obviously see that at even a higher place, like we spike super hard and then we crash super hard. And what can happen if we do that for too long is this, where we wake up in the morning and we have no energy, or we're just kind of like, you know, low affect, right? Like we're just kind of going through life. And then all of a sudden in the late evening, we get all of this energy and we're like ready to rock and roll. That means that our cortisol has been off. So what causes cortisol to be off? Typically two things, either chronic inflammation or infection, or something emotional that we either haven't processed or that we're currently living in right now. Does that make sense? And so a really cool test that we actually have access to, for those of you who don't know, we've never offered tests before. We've just started offering them. We've partnered with a really cool company that lets us do it for a significant discount to you guys. So the stress, mood, and metabolism test is a test that we can run for you guys. And it's this test. It shows us what's happening with your cortisol. Are you normal? Are you spiking super hard and then crashing super hard? Or are you completely reversed? And once we have that information, there's a lot of things that we can do to help reverse that cortisol curve and get it down. What we're talking about tonight, emotional barriers to healing, is one. But I just thought that was really interesting. I thought that was really interesting. So I threw that in there. Any questions about that? Cool. Okay. So, what are some emotional barriers to healing? This is a book that I love. I highly recommend it. It's a book that's based both on science and faith, which I think is really cool. A lot of times a book is either just science or just faith or neither, and is like totally woo-woo, excuse me, crystals and whatever. This one is primarily faith-based, but what we're about to go through in the back is the results of all of the research of what the group of scientists about 20 years ago started to link emotional issues to physical issues. So we're just going to go through a couple of them that I think are pretty common. If you have a physical issue that you want to drop in the chat, hey Marina, just heads up. Oh, I know Marina, when I make it full screen, I can't see the chat. And I don't know how to fix that. Slideshow. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix it. I'm going to take 10 seconds. Nope. Okay. Y'all will survive with small pictures. It's mostly about my voice. I can't see the chat when I do it. So I'm going to read through a couple that I think are pretty common, especially in our Live Nourished community with what we deal with, gut health, adrenal fatigue, chronic stress, that kind of stuff. But if you have something that's going on, like you got some shoulder pain or you got some hip pain, drop that in the chat. I'll find that one and read it. And again, this is take it or leave it, right? If I read something, you're like, oh my gosh, that's like reading my mail. maybe pay attention to it. It's something that might be worth looking into. If I read you something and you're like, yeah, nope, not me, let it go. Like, that's okay. It's not for you right now. So, diarrhea, pretty common with IBS, rejecting what you can't accept, wanting to be done with something or someone, running away from a situation, obsessed with order, overly controlling, or fear of something in the present. Oh, do scoliosis, upper back tightness. Okay. Let's see if it has that in here. Scoliosis. SCOO. It does. Scoliosis. Um, Scoliosis, repressed anger or rage, self-disapproval, guilt, shame, distrustful, feeling at risk, overly burdened, helpless or hopeless, overloaded by responsibility, loneliness or unsupported. Curious if that registers. Much healing has been done, but this used to be me. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So I'm going to read you one that really hit me. I started having shoulder issues. I don't have shoulder issues. What the heck? That doesn't make any sense. So I went and I was like, okay, I'm just going to play with myself. Let's see if this hits me. Shoulders, burdened, stressed by responsibility, difficulty setting boundaries, suppressed emotions, unfulfilled desires, difficulty expressing emotions, and loneliness. Ding, 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 ding. That was like when I was having shoulder pain, that was all of the things that I was feeling. I was drowning in my business. I was struggling with some stuff with my parents. I was feeling super alone as an only child. Like everything in that was like, oh yeah, that's me. And so I went through the process that I'm going to take you guys through tonight if you want to. And I'm not like, I wish I could make this up. I'm not making it up. But the next day I was like, gone. Completely gone. I thought I was gonna have to go like get rotator cuff surgery. Like I thought I tore my rotator cuff and I didn't. It was just a process of like acknowledging some things that were going on inside of me that I didn't realize. And I think that is stinking crazy. I think sometimes you need to go through the emotional stuff and then also maybe do some rotator cuff physical therapy. But for me, that's what happened, which I think is pretty cool. I'm going to read a couple more. Go ahead and drop in the chat if there's any that you would really love me to find for you. Here's one that I think is really appropriate for us. Stomach. So stomach pains or indigestion, feeling insecure or unsafe, fearful of new ideas, lack of affection or unhappiness, condemning success of others, feeling less than, nervousness, impatient, obsessed with material things. I think that's kind of interesting. Oh, let me look up large intestine. Hold on. Because large intestine is what we do with leaky gut. It has small intestine. Let me see if it has large intestine. LA. Yeah, large intestine. Oh man. I'm laughing because when I was this is me. Large intestine, anxiety, perfectionist, defensive, unloved, abandoned, rejection issues, financial worry, self-defeating, controlling emotions, or overly responsible. Like, man, that hits home for me, like pretty hard. Cool. I'm gonna do two more. Oh, headaches. Yeah, Marina, that's a good one. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, H. That's embarrassing that I have to go through the whole alphabet. H, E.
And then Hally, there's a request in the chat too.
Oh, request in the chat. I saw headaches. Oh, that used to be me. Where's the request in the chat? Oh, low.
We're back.
Cool. Okay, headaches. Tense, stress, unresolved emotions, unexpressed inner hurts, inner pressure, lack of control, overwhelming fear and anxiety, unhealthy relationships, unwilling to face realities, inability to laugh, sing, praise, or express gratitude. I'm curious if that hits home. Marina, you sent me headaches in our direct chat, but I want to know if that hits home for you. Okay, and then low back pain. Let's see. I feel like that has to be in here. LOW. Lockjaw. Okay, I don't have low back pain. Let's just look up back pain. Back problems. Aha, here we go. Back problems lower, back problems middle, back problems upper. Back problems lower. unsupported financially, money concerns, desire to back out of a commitment, hurtful relationship, or desire to run away from a situation. So curious if that hits home. Shayla, oh wow, that used to be me. Michelle, that describes my mom, large intestine issues. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like you read it and you're like, oh yeah, I know that person, or that was me. Marina, oh yeah. Anna, to this day, if I get stressed out about finances, I will get awful headaches. I've learned that if I can let the financial stress go, the headache will often go too. That's wild to me. Like you can't make this stuff up. And sometimes it hits home and sometimes you read it and you're like, yeah, nope, like that's not me. But I think it's pretty cool. So thyroid dysfunction was the other one that I wanted to read. Thyroid and hip, because I think those are two things that I hear a lot. We've got a lot of y'all working through some thyroid stuff. Oh, what? Here's a fun one. Gluten sensitivity. Didn't know this one was in here. Overly responsible since childhood, overwhelmed, sorrow, grief, despair, rejected as a child. That hits me on all levels, and that's what I've done the majority of my healing around, and I'm no longer sensitive to gluten. That's cool. Okay, what was I going to do? Thyroid dysfunction. And then we're going to workshop it. So what I want you guys to think about right now is if you would like to do a hot seat. So would you like to go through this healing process? And I'll walk you through what it looks like before so you can know if you want to. But is there something that's kind of going on? Sort of like my shoulder problem, you know, it's not like the deepest emotion. It's not like the worst pain in my whole life, but it's something that I kind of want to play with. I was looking up thyroid. Thyroid. Fearful of self-expression, frustration or anxiety, lack of discernment, paranoid, muddled thinking, suppressed emotion. That hits. And then hip pain was the other one that I feel like we get a lot. So hip pain for me, and just in the last 6 months, was actually what sent me back to counseling to work through some stuff with my family. And I worked through a lot of that and my hips don't hurt anymore. Fear of decision-making, pessimistic, fear of the future, power imbalance in the home, feeling unsupported or nothing to look forward to. Oh, and then there's hip joint. That's interesting. Hip joint is different. Refusal to accept present circumstances and denial of physical experiences. Interesting. Okay, so here's how we're going to workshop this. So if this is interesting to you, if this is like, you know, wiggled something in your brain that goes, I'm curious about this, I just kind of want to know more, I highly recommend this book. Anna will drop the link in the chat right now and then also at the end. But I want to show you guys 2 things that I think is cool. One, let me stop sharing so you can see what I'm doing. One is this picture right here. So spirit is in the middle, soul is on the outside, body is on the outside of that. So often when we're going about trying to figure out how to heal something, we start with the body, right? We start with the physical symptoms. We go to the doctor, we get a pill for the ill, and we don't even think about the fact that that could be something that's like hurting our heart, or that it could be something like in our spirit, in the way that we relate to the world and relate to ourselves. And I think that's pretty wild. Mind and emotion, and then the 5 senses. So what we're going to work on tonight is our spirit and our soul. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. If you want to participate, you are welcome to participate. If you don't want to participate, you don't have to at all. Again, I have a backup plan if none of you want to participate, but I'm hoping one of you will. Some of you are getting that like, I kind of want to try this thing, but here's what the process is going to look like so that you know what you're getting yourself into. Hold on, let me find it. Should have bookmarked that page. Sometimes current Hally is like really proud of past Hally and she made really good decisions, like bookmarking a page. And then sometimes past Hally didn't bookmark the page. And so now she's on a live call flipping through the book trying to find where I need to be. Here we go. Okay. So the way that this process works, it's prayer-based. But the cool thing is you don't have to necessarily believe in Jesus for it to work, which I think is pretty rad. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to think of whatever the physical thing is that you want to explore. Shoulder pain, gut pain, thyroid issue, headache, whatever it is. Then we're going to read what it says in the back of the book for that thing. And I'm going to ask you to think of a memory in the past that comes to mind when you think about the kind of emotional pieces that are tied to that physical piece. the earlier in the past you can go, but if it was something last week, that's also totally fine. And then we're going to rate how strong that emotion is on a scale of 1 to 10. So 10, like, oh my gosh, I can feel it. I'm in that moment right now and it's totally real. Or down to 1, like, I don't really feel it at all. Then we're going to picture that scene, but we're going to invite a safe person into that scene. So for me, my safest person is Father God. So when I go into these memories, Father God is there with me and he's next to me or he's holding me or he's doing something. Sometimes it's Jesus, sometimes it's Holy Spirit, sometimes it's an aunt or an uncle or a mom or a dad or a friend or a sister, someone who you just feel completely safe with. So we're gonna go back to that memory and we're gonna invite that safe person into that memory. And then we're going to ask that person, that safe person, whether it's God or an aunt, to take that hard emotion. We're going to say, like, it's a process, but we're going to release that emotional, physical memory, sight, hearing, cellular memory, trauma. We're going to release it to that safe person. And when I work through this with clients, really cool things happen. Like, I'll tell you one of my own stories just so I don't give up a client. But when I was going through this for myself, because I do this with myself and I have a mentor that I do this with, but had this memory, and as I was like giving it to Jesus, it felt like bags of like old clothes. And so I just like, I'd give him a bag and then like I'd give him another bag and then I'd give him another bag. And I was like all these bags because it was a pretty deep one. And so I gave him all of these bags to my safe person. And then I felt like they kept jumping back onto my shoes. Like I couldn't quite get rid of it. And so I asked Jesus to like draw a line in the carpet because I was in my living room. Draw a line in the carpet for me in my mind. I was in my living room, and that the clothes, bags of clothes couldn't cross that line. And so he like drew that line and I was able to step back. And then I was able to walk away from that. And receive a ton of like freedom and healing. So cool things happen when we give it to our safe person, whether it's our aunt or the Lord. And it's always different and it's always kind of cool to hear like what that looked like. We are going to declare the healing that you've received. So we're going to kind of seal that in you. And there might be more layers. Like you might not be done after this, but we're going to seal what you received. And then we're going to kind of come back out and we're going to rate that emotion again. So we're going to say, okay, think about this scene. What's your emotion level right now? And the idea is that it would have gone from a 10 to an 8 or an 8 to a 7 or a 7 to a 6. When we have a ton of time, it goes from like an 11 to a 2 and it's awesome. Tonight, it might go from, a 5 to a 3. But that's the process. It's super gentle. Another thing that we do through this process, we give ourselves a love hug. Sounds really weird, but there's a lot of science between like cross body, all the things. It just kind of makes us feel safe. So I just want you guys to go ahead and do that right now. Even if this is the only tool you walk away with, just kind of give yourself a hug. Like it just kind of feels good. Like you're sort of like tucked in and snuggled. And then one thing you can do to really help calm your nervous system is bilateral tapping. So in that hug, you can do this. We could do a whole wellness workshop on tapping. There are people who spend their entire lives studying this modality alone. But basically what it's doing is it's connecting your left and your right hemisphere. So it's helping the logical side of your brain connect to the emotional side of your brain. If it's not working, you can always tap a little harder. If it feels distracting, you can always tap a little bit lighter. But that's what we're going to do. So again, I have a backup plan. I actually have 2 backup plans. So is there anyone who would love to try to go through this for themselves as an example? Cool. Okay.
I'm more or less willing. Oh, Michelle, if you want to go for it.
I mean, I'm certainly willing.
Do it.
Okay.
Yeah, do it.
So, but I'm not sure what my physical distress is in the book.
Okay, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see if it's there.
Okay.
What is it?
Well, my physical therapy brain thinks it's a disc because
Okay.
there's a little bit of pain in my low back, but I'm having like nerve symptoms in my left calf.
Okay, I'm going to look up nerves. So we already did low back. Did any of that feel like it hit home?
Not that much.
Okay, so now I'm going to look up nerves Because I would guess that's in here. And if not,
Right.
I'm gonna look up calf.
And so my other thought is like it could be considered sciatica, but
Oh,
it's not the classic sciatica because I don't feel it in my thigh at all. It's like I feel it in my back and then it jumps to my lateral calf.
okay. Is sciatica spelled with an I or a Y? Is it S-I or S?
SCI.
Oh, S-C-I. I'm looking in
I
the whole.
think it's SC.
Yep, there is sciatica. Okay, so I'm gonna read. So I found nerves and I found sciatica. Let's see if there's calves. Hold on. All my places. C-A. That I kind of doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we don't have calves. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna read you nerves, and then I'm gonna read you sciatica and tell me if any of those are like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Where'd nerves go? Nerves. Suppressed emotions, thoughts, can't let go of the past, distrustful or controlling. Sciatica. Had bookmarked with my finger. Let's go. There we
Which
go.
finger?
Sciatica, which finger? Good question. Sciatica, anxiety regarding creative abilities, double-minded, sexual frustration, money concerns, ignored or defeated. That one's hitting home.
Oh, I was waving goodbye to my husband.
Oh, I thought you were like, me.
I'm sorry. The first part, um, read it again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
No worries. And some of these are like, oh, like that first part hits and that second part really doesn't. That's okay. So sciatica, anxiety regarding creative abilities, double-minded, sexual frustration, money concerns, ignored or defeated.
so most of those are, yeah, most of those work.
Most of those hit. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So are you willing to try it?
sure.
Okay. So I want to give you full permission. If at any point you're like, I'm uncomfortable, I'm out. I'm not going to be offended. You can just open your eyes and be like, I'm out. I don't want to do this.
Okay.
For all the rest of you guys on the call, if any of that hit home for you, if you're like, oh man, anxiety, like, yeah, I feel that, or money concerns, or ignored or defeated, if any, or like anxiety regarding creative abilities, if any of that hit home, feel free to do this along with us. Your journey will look different, and that's totally okay. So if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes. It usually works better because we don't get distracted by like whatever's across the room. I want you to give yourself a love hug, and then I just want you to start tapping. And take a deep breath. And I want you to think back to a memory where you first started feeling whatever part of that list really hit home. Anxiety over creative abilities, financial problems, ignored, forget what the other ones were. And then when you have that memory, just let me know. You don't have to tell me what it is. You can just tell me that you got it.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Rate that emotion, rate that memory on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being totally comfortable with it, 10 being it's like almost unbearable.
Probably about a 6 because I've already done some work around it.
Awesome. Okay, about a 6. So the next thing that we're going to do, who is your safe?
Do I keep tapping?
Yeah, keep tapping the whole time. My
Oh,
arms get
okay.
tired sometimes when I do this, but it's helpful.
Okay.
If your arms get really tired, you can kind of like drop your love hug and just do this, like just cross your arms.
Yeah,
tap.
I just scooted my computer out so I could let my elbows rest because I'm kind of
Yeah.
semi-reclined in my chair.
Yep,
Okay.
you can do that. If that gets
Mhm.
really tired, you can just put your hands on your knees and tap. But the
Okay.
more you kind of snuggle yourself in, the easier it is. So who is a really safe person for you?
Oh, Jesus is my safe person.
Okay, Jesus is your safe person. Cool. So the memory that came to mind, however old you are, I want you to go back into that memory. And that memory is kind of on pause. You can see the people, you can see the setting, you can see what's going on, but nobody's moving, nobody's talking. Just let me know when you have that.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Okay. Then I want you to look around and I want you to see where Jesus is.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Is he close to you? Is he far from you?
Oh, he's right behind me.
Oh, good. Awesome. Okay. So I want you to identify either the event or the words that were said to you or the thing that happened that caused this emotion. And it might be a really easily pinpointable thing, or it might be kind of nebulous, just like a feeling. But I want you to sort of gather that thing up and kind of put it in front of you, or that person, whatever it was that caused that pain. Got that?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. So I'm going to go off script a little bit here, and that's okay. So I want you, can you just tell me if it's a person or a memory or words or anything like that?
Um, yeah, I mean, it was a meeting at work and me asking a vulnerable question and basically being, uh, the door was slammed shut,
Gotcha.
um, by our leader, and yeah.
Okay. What was the emotion that you felt in that moment? Like defeat, anger, discouragement?
Um, it made me feel really young. Um, so defeat, um, kind of, it was kind of a how dare I even ask? So maybe shame.
Yeah. Shame, maybe feeling kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So either in your mind or out loud, it's totally fine. We're going to say to that person, um, this shame, this feeling young, this feeling inadequate, whatever the words are that feel right to
Mm.
you, this isn't mine. This is yours. And so I'm going to give it back to you now. And I want you to picture yourself. We're going to give it back to that person, and we're going to have Jesus help you. So as you start to say that, take a couple times, like, this is not mine. This is yours, and I'm going to give it back to you. If you can hand it back to them directly with Jesus standing behind you, that works. If you need to hand it to Jesus and let Jesus hand it to them, that works. But just start handing it back to them or start handing it to Jesus and let me know what happens. Let me know if you get it all handed over or if you get stuck. Just keep handing it back. Jesus, we just thank you right now for taking this. This was never Michelle's to take in the first place. We thank you that we can just give it back. This is no longer ours to carry.
I think I'm done.
Okay, so take a look around you, see if there's anything left. Any like scrap of paper or, piece of clothing that's not in a bag. If you see anything left, just hand that over, brush it aside. And if not, then we're going to take the next step. So just let me know what you see as you look around.
It feels like there's some like anonymous scraps is what they seem to be. So, or nondescript, but okay. We were
Cool.
sitting at a boardroom table, so I'm just sort of sliding those scraps across the table too.
Love
They're
it.
not mine.
They're not yours. Nope. We can give them back all of the pieces, the big ones and the scraps.
Yep.
Yep. Let me know when you've got all of that done. Sometimes we need to ask Jesus to help. Like sometimes one of them is sticky, like, hey, Jesus, can you take this one off me? It kind of just keeps getting stuck to me. Like static. And just let me know when they're all gone.
Ooh, okay. That's weird. It was it's like some lanyard. I'm not really sure what it represents, but
Mm,
it needs to go too. So,
we're gonna
okay.
give that back.
Like some kind of yoked together thing that doesn't need to be there. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Gonna hand that back.
Mm-hmm.
That's not yours.
Not mine.
Not gonna hold on to it anymore.
Can I switch which arm's on top?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, that's much better. Okay. I
Feeling good?
think we're I think we're done.
Got it all handed over. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so now I want you to kind of zoom out. Michelle is still sitting at that board table, but
Mm-hmm.
current Michelle is gonna sort of step out and take a look. So we've got Jesus right behind you. You're sitting at that board table. I want you to look at Michelle's face, and Michelle at the board table, I want Michelle to look at Jesus. What is Michelle sitting at that board table? What does her face look like? Is she smiling? Is she just kind of neutral faced? Is she frowning?
Um, if you'd asked me this earlier, it would have been very different, but now she's just sort of peaceful.
Awesome. So what that typically means is that we got rid of most of it. If she was just like kind of neutral face, sort of deadpan, then we might have
Mm-hmm.
maybe another memory. If she was frowning, like we're not done. But if she's peaceful, then we're
Mm-hmm.
good. So now, either you can stay Michelle looking outside or you can become Michelle sitting at the table again. But we're just going to walk out of that room with Jesus. If it's okay to walk away, is it okay to walk away?
I think so.
Okay, cool. So go ahead and let Jesus lead you or get up with him. And you're just going to walk out of that room and let me know when you're just somewhere different.
Mhm. Sure. Okay, we're somewhere different.
Awesome. Okay, so since you believe in Jesus, I'm going to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to have you kind of come back. So, Jesus, we just thank you for your grace. We thank you that we can rewrite our stories and rewrite our history, and that we don't have to hold on to the things that the people in our lives give us, even if they didn't mean to, whether they meant to or not, that that's theirs. And we can walk away free and light because of who you are and because of your grace. And so we just seal this healing in Michelle's heart. We decree and declare in your name and by your blood that this healing is full and complete and that none of these pieces can come back to her. If there's another layer, Lord, we trust that that you will bubble it to the surface and walk her through that healing. And for now, we just thank you for the freedom that she is getting to walk away from that boardroom table with. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Okay.
And then I want you to just think about that memory again and give me another rating. It was at a 6. Where is it at now?
I'm like rating the emotional level of it.
Yeah. Like when you think about that emotion, are you still like a 6? Like I'm almost kind of there, or are you like,
Ah, no, it's like a 1.
awesome? Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we get to test your sciatica. Sometimes we can like do it right away. Sometimes like you kind of have to go a couple days and go, oh, like maybe
Oh
that's not.
no, it feels better already. My left
That's
my
cool.
left calf isn't burning anymore.
Come on. Okay, so
Yeah.
you have to keep me posted. Like over the next week or so, send me a text and let me know if it stays
Yes.
or if it comes back, but it comes back less, because that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
oh
because
man.
I was to the point where I was like, one of the other PTs I used to work with does myofascial work, and I was like, maybe I just need to go and let her kind of realign everything. And so I'm like, oh, well, okay, maybe I don't.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I thought I needed rotator cuff physical therapy, and now I'm like, I'm
Right,
yeah.
right.
Oh,
Okay.
that's so exciting.
Can I stop
I just
tapping now?
yeah, you can stop tapping now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I know. It's like hard on the shoulders. It's sort of exhausting.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that with me. Thank you for
Yeah. No, that
great.
was awesome.
Good. I'm so glad. It is such an honor to get to walk people through this. So thank you for taking that bold
Yeah.
step. And truly, like, please let me know what happens in the next week.
Yeah, no, because I'm even like I have a pillow in my low back to try to keep me in a tiny bit of extension because that's usually helpful.
Yeah.
And even sitting here with that, it was like, oh, it's getting kind of annoying, and it's a 0 at this point.
Oh,
So
that's so
yeah.
cool. That's so cool. Yeah, man, thank you, Jesus. So
Yes.
yeah, to kind of bring this plane in for a landing, this is something that you can do for yourself. So when I did it for my shoulder, I did this by myself. Like I sat there and I read shoulder and I thought about the emotion. I did all the things. It's really helpful to do with someone.
Hmm.
So we're gonna go back to this thing because I will forget what I wanted to say if I don't. Um, so your next steps from this, can you guys see my screen, or did I just go full screen and not actually share my screen? I just
You
went full.
didn't share it.
I'm staring at it, but you guys aren't. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. So what do you do from here? Think about what you want to do with this information. If you have questions, talk to your coach about it. Book one of your coaching calls and talk to them. Go seek counseling. If what we did tonight isn't your jam and you're like, that's weird, I don't want to do that, but I understand how emotions can affect my health, find a counselor. We are such big fans of counseling. I put EMDR in here because EMDR is eye movement desensitization. I forget what the R is, but it's really simple counseling that helps you go a little deeper in emotion. So it's a really great way to kind of break some of these emotional barriers to healing. If you're like, oh man, I've got so many emotions and I think it could really help me, look into some deep dive resources. My two favorites are called Restoring the Foundations and Onsite. Onsite is more, it's like a 7-day counseling program, and it is life-changing. It is worth every penny. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. I just think they're the best. Restoring the Foundations is more of a faith-based process, inviting Jesus in, does a very similar thing. I highly recommend both of them. You can get this book and try it for yourself. Anna dropped the link in the chat so you guys can grab that book. Get the book, read it. If you're super skeptical, maybe don't start with the exercise that we just started with, but there's all of this information. It's really a well-written, well done, thought through book. So get it, read it, ask a bunch of questions. Get your cortisol level tested. If you feel like part of what you're dealing with is because your cortisol is really high, get your cortisol level tested. Let's figure out what's happening in the physical and then start asking some questions about what's going on in the emotional that's keeping it so high. And think, ponder, and pray. You can get off this call and be like, I don't know, like that Hally girl, she's kind of weird. That seemed a little, I don't know. Just think about it. See how it sits with your spirit. It might not be for you, or it might be the thing that takes you over the finish line, or that opens up a door to us working on something in the physical that would be really helpful. So, I hope this was helpful. I don't think I have any other slides. What is that? Yeah, that's it. So we have 1 minute left. Do you guys have any questions, thoughts, concerns? Man, that was cool. Anything that you would like to ask or say before we sign off for the evening?
Thank
Yeah,
you for leading it.
you're welcome. It's honestly, it's like so fun for me. I think stuff like that is really cool. So thank you, Michelle, for being brave. Thank you, all of you. Shayla, I absolutely loved it. Yay. Thank you, all of you, for taking an hour out of your Thursday evenings to be with us. It is always so incredibly fun. Shelly, thank you. Yes. Yay. Anna, very cool. Thank you. Our next one is same time. So wait, are we third Thursday or second Thursday, Anna? Third Thursday. She's
Thought I
unmuted.
was unmuted because I had unmuted myself a second ago. We're third Thursday, almost
Third
right.
Thursday. Okay, great. So every third Thursday at 6 p.m. Our next one is going to be super cool. Shayla is walking us through how to detox our skincare in our life. And she's got some really cool things in it that I didn't even know. So I feel like I have a tendency to be like, oh, like detoxing my skin. Psh, like I'm a pro. I know all of that stuff. Nope. Shayla taught me things that I didn't know. So the link is in the Eventbrite. Highly recommend signing up for that right now so you don't forget. Every third Thursday, we have these wellness workshops. And the goal is to really add to your program here with us with Live Nourished and give you deeper dives and different directions to go because we think we're mind, body, spirit humans and all of it needs to be addressed. So keep working with your coaches. If you are not working with a coach right now, let us know and we will reach out to you and have a conversation about how that might be helpful for you. And keep living nourished, keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep trusting the process. And stay curious about what's happening in your body, stay curious about what's happening in your mind and heart, and know that the only time that we will ever be fully healed is when we go home to heaven. But right now on this planet, we can get as much healing as we possibly can. And I want all the healing that I possibly can. So link to sign up for the next workshop is there. Anna will send this recording out tomorrow along with that link as well if you miss it. And then we'll also send out the links to this book on Amazon. As well as the mood, stress, and metabolism test, if that's something that you want to do. So thank you guys so much for spending your Thursday with me. It truly means the world to me to get to see your faces. And I hope you have a beautiful, peaceful week. And also just blessings, Michelle, for being brave. Thank you. Yay. Good night, y'all.